Alright, so we got this door stripped. As you can see, it was pretty beat up pretty much everywhere. We used the dent puller, got it pulled as straight as we can get it. Got the whole door DA'd down with 80 grit. You can go 36, either way is fine. And I'm going to skim coat the entire door with body filler. The reason being, there's so many spots on when you're doing something like a restoration or something you just want it to be really straight. When you have damage like this all over the place, it's much better just to skim the entire panel and block it down all level, rather than do a spot of filler here, a spot there, a spot there, a spot there, and then you block all those out and you feather them in, and you're never going to get it exactly perfect. There's going to be slight waves in between each repair spot that you're going to rely on primer to fill and make it all level. It's much better just to do it all, do a skim coat of body filler and get it all on one plane, or whatever you want to say. And then you block it basically like this fender. Get it all covered, and then you basically block it down and you start hitting metal, to stop. And as long as when you start hitting metal like this, as long as there's no spots you see of Bondo that didn't get sanded, like if I hit metal here and here, if it was still unsanded right here, you'd know there was a low spot and you'd know you'd need to go ahead and coat this area again. But that's the idea. On this door I'm going to put masking tape on this body line here, cover this up, and I may mask off this line here and cover this lower portion. I'm not sure yet, just because it's easier. I want to keep this line. There's no damage on this body line, so I want to keep it nice and original. I don't want to cover the line with body filler and try to have to reshape it when it's already good to start with. So I'll do that separately after this is all done and blocked out. Then I'll remask the line this way and just put filler on the bottom here. Same with this one. I don't want to get a bunch of filler dripping down into this curve here, and I'll just have to dig it out later. So I'll mask it off. There is a little damage on this, but I'll probably just be able to use a little bit of glaze to smooth it out. I won't have to use regular filler. And when I coat this, I'm going to try to stay away from these areas. As you can see, it's all indented in for the lock and the door handles. It's not very much fun trying to dig it all back out of here, so you don't want to just spread over these things. There is a little bit of damage right here. I'll probably just try to wipe a little bit in there while I'm doing this. So I'm going to get this masked off and get ready for some filler. Alright, so I got this taped up so I don't smear a bunch down here where I don't want it right now. Same with here. Sometimes I'll actually mask these off too. This time I'm just going to try not to get it down in there. Alright, so here we got our filler. I'm using Raged Gold. You can use any kind you like. Some of the cheaper ones don't spread as nice, so it can be a little harder to get that smooth spread on there. It makes less work to sand, but Bondo is Bondo and they'll all work. I'm going to get this mixed up, and I'll turn you on when I start getting ready to spread. I'm going to use this metal spreader. It's the whitest one I have. You can use metal or plastic. Doesn't really matter. I don't usually use metal spreaders a lot because I've never had them, but they work pretty good. And I'm probably going to spread it this way just because it's easier, because the door is curved. Otherwise you kind of hold a curve in the spreader and go that way. You can do it either way you want and just do whatever's easier just to get it all on the panel. And that's that. Alright, I got my Bondo all mixed up. You want to keep mixing it till it's all uniform in color. You don't see any streaks of hardener. You want to fold it over itself, push it flat instead of just stirring it and mixing air into it. I would have showed you that better, but I don't have a camera person. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dump this all on the door, or whatever panel I'm doing, and then smear it around instead of just putting a little bit on, smoothing it, getting a little bit more. But it's just easier just to get it all on there and then work with it and get it where you want it. Keep smoothing it around, try to get it as even as you can. Hopefully you can see some of this. If not, I apologize. You want to push firmly down on the spreader, really work it into the scratches in the metal. You don't want to just float it across. You want to push firmly down on it. And after you get it firmly pushed in, you can kind of about the spreader over it just to try to get rid of some of your lines. Make it a little less sandy work. But don't worry about it too much, because you're going to sand most of this off anyway. It may look like I'm putting a ton on here, and I am. Just remember, most of it is going to end up on the floor when I sand it. But it's a surefire way of getting your panel straight. Because if you cover the whole thing in filler and block it all down, it's going to be straight, as long as you use a block that's straight. See, I dripped some on the floor here and then stepped in it. I got some on the camera. It's all over my hands. So make sure you wear gloves when you do this, because it will get everywhere. If you're doing it on something like a fender or quarter panel, go ahead and cover up the wheel and tire, because it's going to drip all over that too. You see, I tried to stay out of my indentations there. This is a lot rougher than I would like it, but just the way it goes sometimes. Doesn't matter how much you do this, you'll get pretty good at it. And I've been doing it for almost 20 years, and I'm not perfect at it. You don't want to mess with it too much. You can see when I'm starting to drag the spreader across this, it's not smoothing back out, it's leaving kind of a grainy texture, versus this where I just spread it and it's smooth. So I should stop messing with it. Like you say, you hit this with 36 when it's still kind of green, and you'll knock all these lines out of it really easy. And I'll be back and show you that as soon as I clean this spreader up. So we'll see you then. Also, don't forget to pull this tape off before the filler sets up. Otherwise it's going to be a little bit of a pain. As you can see, I failed there. I didn't get enough tape on there, and I got Bondo all over this edge here. Just put that down there. We'll step in it later. Get this tape off of here. That's the only time cheap tape sticks, is when you don't want it to. Now we'll wait for this to set up. I will say I'm a bit disappointed in my spreading skills on this one. As you can see, it's not the smoothest. So I got the longest board I have, which is this Durablock here. Some 36 grit. You can use 40, whatever you have. And as you can see, this is not dry yet, but it's starting to dry up, and that's generally when I like to skim the block over it. Basically, you're just setting the block down. Not really putting any pressure on it, because you don't want to tear the Bondo that's not cured yet off of the surface, which will happen. But it's easier to knock these lines out of it is starting to shape this while it's still wet. It's also easier if you can use both hands and not hold the camera with the other one. But I'll do what I can. I hope you're not getting motion sickness. And I'm not pushing on this, I'm just basically setting the block down, moving it around. You can see how it's cutting those lines out. It will also gum up your paper. So if you're worried about wasting paper, just let it get hard and it won't clog your paper up. A little more elbow grease, but you'll get the same result in the end. You can see when you sand it like this, the Bondo just kind of balls up and rolls off. Which is why you don't want to push too hard, because you'll cut through, like here. You'll start rolling it off the metal. So once you get it down a little ways like that, you want to let it harden up some more so you can actually push on it and really start cutting it down. So we'll wait for that to happen. Bondo set up more now, so I'm using a little pressure on it, blocking it down further. So you can see when I'm sanding, I'm using my crisscross. You want to hit as much as the panel as you can in each stroke. You don't want to come down here and focus on one spot, because this spot will be straight. Then you're going to have a big wave going down into it. As you can see, I've gotten most of it sanded down. There's a few little low spots here. When you get most of it down like this, when you get close to getting it all evenly sanded down, and you don't have any more lows, or when the lows are almost gone where you've sanded everything, you can go ahead and switch to 80 grit and finish it off. Or if it looks like these aren't going to come out before you hit metal everywhere, you just go ahead and continue on with the 36 until you do hit metal and give it one more small skim coat. I'm going to keep going a little bit more, try to get some of this more out, and we'll see what happens. Apologize for the crappy footage. I don't have a tripod or anything. You can see I have a low down here. I'm not sure if it's going to come out or not. Just make sure when you see something like that, you don't focus on trying to get it out, because you will be able to sand it out, but then your door's not going to be straight anymore. It's going to be straight, and it's going to start to dip down in here. And that's not what we're going for when we skim coat an entire panel like this. So I'm going to do this side down here, same way, block it down a little further, and I'll come back and we'll see what we have. As you can see, the camera lady's back, so I can redo this whole thing and make a better production.
What?
So, continued with 36 grit. As you can see, I'm hitting metal here and here, and I'm just now starting to get scratches down in these low spots. But they're not going to come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scuff them up by hand with some 36 grit in each of these. I'm going to come back and put one nice little skim coat over each of these areas, and then I'll block them down flat with everything else, and then I'll switch to 80 grit and block the whole door. It's okay to do spots here and there in the low spots now versus before where it was all bare metal, because the metal won't sand down when you're doing those other spots. And here, when I put a spot of filler here and here and here, once I sand those down flat with this will start sanding too, and it'll all make an even surface versus spots of filler on metal where the metal won't sand down, but the filler will. I don't know if that makes any sense. If it doesn't, I'm sorry. I'll be back. And there you go. As you can see, I mixed up some more filler. Spread a tight wipe over each of my little low spots. And now I will let that get almost hard, not all the way. I want it to still be kind of soft. And I'll take a smaller block and I'll block just these areas down until they're flat with the other surface. And then I'll switch to 80 grit on the longer block and go over the whole door. So we will let this dry. It's starting to dry. It's almost ready. Not quite. Okay, so now I've got my blocks of 36. I'm going to block these areas down. The reason I'm not using the longer block is because at this point I am concentrating on these spots, trying to get them level with this. I don't want a bigger block digging this down low while I'm trying to sand these down. It will make slight waves between the difference between these two areas, but when I block the whole door with 80 grit on the longer block, it'll level it all back out. that's what we're looking to do. And you get the idea. Do the same thing on all these spots. You can see when you have a good piece of sandpaper that's still sharp and you sand the Bondo at the right time, it doesn't take very much time to knock this stuff down. Just like that. So I'm going to do that to all these spots. Get them down flat. And then we'll go to 80 grit on the long block. Okay. So you can see these are sanded down flat with my prior Bondo application. The 36. No more low spots showing. And we will block it out now with 80 grit with this longboard. I'm going to stop there at 80 because I'm using a polyester primer, which will fill all those 80 grit scratches in and it won't shrink. If you're using a urethane 2K primer, probably want to go to 180 at least, if not 220. Just look at the tech sheets, whatever primer you use, and it will tell you what scratch you have to finish with, so you don't get any shrinkage. The sand scratch is showing back up after your car is painted. So basically I'm going to do the same thing I did with the 36. And just block out the whole door. At this point you could actually spray a guide coat down if you wanted to, and then block it out. It would show you exactly where you're at and where you need to go. I just kind of look at my scratches. I see the 36 grit scratches go away and turn into 80 grit scratches, and that's where I'll finish. I'll use the guide coat when I do the polyester primer. Alright, I'm going to stop there because the rest of it's more of the same, and I kind of need both hands to sand this. So I hope somebody learned something. I know I didn't. By now you can probably realize why I don't do how-to videos, because I'm not good at it, and it's just not what I do. I don't mind showing you how to do something if somebody has a question, but generally my videos just are about showing what's going on and what we're doing and how stupid we are. I'm just trying to have fun.
Yeah, because this stuff sucks.
Because it's because the stuff sucks. Just like sanding these jams.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so bad if I didn't have to try to take all this teal off.
Yep.
This teal, for some reason, just doesn't.
It's all fun. If you make it fun. If not, it's the worst thing ever. But yeah, if you have any questions, I'm sure I missed a million things. And there's probably a million people telling me that I did it wrong. That's another reason why I don't do how-tos, because you'll find in this trade, in this line of work, this hobby, whatever, everyone that does it seems to think that their way is the way, and there's no other way, and every other way is wrong. So I'll probably get, you know, a lot of that. Why are you doing this? You should do that. Blah, blah, blah. And that's fine. I'm not saying this is the right way. This is my way. This is how I do it. It works for me. And I don't have any problem with learning other ways or different methods or whatever. So if you have a better idea on how to do something, be more than happy to watch you do it or listen to how you do it. If you want to get a car completely dead straight, I don't care if this was a brand new panel NOS door from GM, I would have done the same thing to it and skim coated the whole thing. I might not have had quite as much Bondo on it because this had some heavy damage, but there still would have been a skim coat over the whole door when I was done. It's the only way to make them super straight that I know of. You can also do it with polyester primers and some high build epoxy primers. But I try to get it as straight as I can with body filler first because I find that it's the hardest substance and doesn't shrink like some primers can. And before I ramble on too long, I'll just end this and be it. So, once again, thanks for watching. Hope somebody learned something. Have a nice day. One more quick note I completely forgot about is C. Dell on YouTube made a video the other day talking about using a yardstick to spread the filler, and that may have worked pretty good on this door. I could have just started up here after I got all the mud on it and pulled it down this way, and it probably would have worked pretty slick. Now granted, he didn't show us him using that and demonstrating it, but at least he told us about it, and that's a pretty good idea. So anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there. As you can see, when you sand with the 80 grit, block it all down. As I'm about halfway done with that, you can see this is all 80 grit. There's still some stray 36 grit scratches here and there, but where it was low, it's filled in, and it kind of, you can tell by the color how it kind of feathers out. And here you can see just how much Bondo gets sanded back off. Alright, that's it this time. I'm done.